All right, guys, we are live. We'll give folks a moment here to filter in, and then we'll get started. Officially, tornado watches have been issued across the area, specifically across northern Indiana, western Indiana, southwest Indiana. So this tornado watch down here is slightly different. Southwest Indiana, western Kentucky here, guys, western Tennessee. That's a particularly dangerous situation tornado watch. We're concerned about the potential for violent tornadoes in this area, and we actually already have a confirmed tornado on the ground right now. We'll zoom in on that. That's actually just southwest of St. Louis. And so we do have a confirmed tornado right now. You can see the clear supercell structure with this storm just south of St. Louis. I'll briefly turn on some of the rotation tracks for you all to see. Wow, really, really strong rotation tracks on this storm. And so this is just the beginning. These storms are just now getting into an environment that's very favorable for tornadic development, but also, Michael, very large hail and damaging winds. And I think that, the threat for damaging winds, 80 mile per hour or even stronger in some cases, is maybe increasing around here,
Yeah,
with the highest tornado threat perhaps just to our southwest of central Indiana.
yeah. And real quick, I just want to pull up. I pulled up Omega on the observed tornado here and tracked it out just south of St. Louis Metro, getting into the Festus area, and then it would approach St. Louis if it can continue on where it's going, probably around that 5:45. Well, actually 4:45 Central Time. But again, that is a violent look there, a very very strong look, the classic hook indication on the radar. Certainly, folks out ahead of that. Heed the warning and stay safe there. So, nonetheless, getting started early here, my friend. Some stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think the biggest question with this setup has been the discrete potential supercells out ahead of the main line, which we're starting to see a little bit. I'll turn my screen sharing back on. We're starting to see a little bit south of here. We go down here, you can see a lot of that out in western Tennessee, northern Mississippi, which is where the high risk is. So that's not all that surprising. But we haven't been able to break the lid in the atmosphere here across Illinois and Indiana, at least at this point. I think if that's going to happen, it would have to be closer to about 5:30 or 6. But I think that it's becoming increasingly likely that, especially north of I-70, the primary wave it'll just be one wave. One line of storms that moves through, and we'll kind of highlight that on the simulated radar. So this is as of about 5:30, 6 o'clock here, guys. We can see maybe some of these storms beginning to develop kind of north of I-70 here, but I think your most severe storms at this time will be to the southwest, St. Louis, down toward Little Rock, Arkansas, Memphis, Jackson, Tennessee. As we go further into the evening hours, guys, this is by about 7 o'clock. Could start to get a couple of cells up here, and there is a tornado threat up here. While it's not as high as areas to the southwest, we do need to keep an eye on some strong to severe storms up here along the warm front, Lafayette to the Kokomo area. Further off to the west, what you will see is kind of a broken line of storms with embedded supercells starting to push into central Illinois, into southern Illinois, and then a lot of, wow, this is a crazy signal, a lot of supercells being possible down here across parts of Tennessee and Arkansas. That's a crazy look there. A lot of discrete cells starting to show up on this newest run here southwest. This is by about 7:30, 8 8:30, what we will start to see perhaps are a few more of these cells developing out ahead of the main line by about 8 o'clock. Um, with this, that's where I think you could see the potential of a stronger tornado threat, maybe an EF3 plus tornado threat across southern Indiana. Again, that particularly dangerous situation tornado watch in southwestern Indiana, western Kentucky. You can very clearly see the supercell signal from western Kentucky to western Tennessee to southwest Indiana. So we continue to go along, guys. And again, I think that this particular run may be a touch too slow. This is by about, I'm going to say, closer to 8:30 to 9 o'clock. This is probably working towards Indiana now, or central Indiana, right in Indianapolis. What you see here out ahead of this main line, you can see the Boeing segments. We'll talk about that here in a second because that's going to be a big deal in terms of wind. But these supercells developing in western Kentucky and across the southern half of the state. I'm very concerned that any of these supercells that develop out ahead of the main line could pose the potential for a very strong tornado. And this goes along with that high risk area, or that higher risk area that we talked about earlier in the day in terms of the violent tornado threat across the southern third of the state and western Kentucky. But here in Indianapolis, certainly, if one of these supercells gets further north, you could deal with a longer track tornado along I-70. But also, there's still a ton of spin in the atmosphere. And so while maybe wind becomes a little bit more widespread around here locally, you can easily get spin ups and tornadoes along this line, really anywhere along this line from Kokomo to Indy to Bloomington, all the way down into southwestern Indiana.
Yep, yep. And I think that one thing too to keep in mind too is that these storms, are going to be moving incredibly quickly as well. We kind of talked about that this morning. The speed at which they're moving west to east. This line will the cells out in front, the line behind it, it'll plow through. Those storms out there in St. Louis right now are moving at 50 miles per hour. They'll
Mhm.
probably speed up a little bit as the jet comes up. But guys, there are so many of you asking what time. I mean, I don't know how to make the time any more clear than what Brett has literally done here, hour by hour, frame by frame, for the storm time. I don't know what else to tell you. We're going. Brett, what time is this? Take me out
Yeah, I'm gonna
in hour increments.
let me even help a little bit more. Let me
Okay.
zoom out
Yeah.
so we can see the future radar. I'll
Yeah.
expand the screen a little bit. There we go. How about that?
There's 8:30. All right. And here's 9, and we'll go to 9:30. Brett, are you moving us along here?
I'm trying to.
Let's see.
It
Uh,
my window. There we go. Okay. So yeah, 9. So I wouldn't be shocked, Michael, if this speeds up by half an hour. So maybe call this 8:30,
sure.
9
Sure.
o'clock,
Maybe 9. Yeah. Yep.
9:30 here, guys. 10
Yep.
o'clock. Phew, look at that's a gnarly line of storms.
Yeah,
Uh,
zoom in on that east of Indy real quick. There's some things going on there that worry me. Those are spinning. Those are embeddedly spun supercells there. Those are interesting to see that kind of inflow notch hook on the radar and the cells out ahead of it. Um, Again, the signal too, the significant tornado parameter, the environment at 9 o'clock out ahead of this line is pretty is pretty impressive. So just because it's not supercell storms does not mean we won't get tornadoes and incredibly strong winds, because I think that we will. So
Yeah, I want to look at that real quick. I'm going to look at the 3-hour max wind gust. So this
mhm.
is out through about 9 o'clock and then out through midnight. Look at that. This signal has actually, I would say, increased over the
Yeah,
past several runs. If we click around, we can click around and see max wind gust here on this particular model, indicating higher than 80-mile-per-hour winds in some of the strongest storms here. When you get Boeing segments like this, you can get extremely damaging winds. And in fact, gosh, look at that. 90.
yeah.
Clicked on a spot there south of Terre Haute. Don't get caught up on the exact spots, but the
Hmm.
general idea here is a widespread damaging wind event with the potential for 75 to 80-mile-per-hour plus wind gusts in a more scattered fashion along with this line.
Yep, yep. Brett, we have a particular model that gets ran on demand in these types of storms. It's called the Warn On high resolution model, runs every half an hour. This model here, guys, is a project from the National Severe Storms Laboratory, the NSSL, and it really tries to nail down county level specifics of where it could get. We could have storms that are going to rotate and be at their strongest with their updrafts and their ability to spin. You can see this particular projection here um, indicates a couple of those could happen just through 7:30 if I'm or 6:30. That those look to have a little bit of an earlier signal there.
It is an earlier signal. So this particular piece of model guidance has a couple of those discrete cells developing a little bit faster out ahead of the main line. So it's not off the table. While I do think that our biggest window for severe weather is probably, let's say, for the western part of the state, 8 p.m. to maybe 11 p.m., kind of in that time frame in there. There's still the potential for some discrete cells. I wouldn't rule it out. And if there are discrete cells, there's the potential of tornadoes and longer track tornadoes. And in fact, Michael, something interesting real quick that I want to highlight. I'm going to turn on radar Omega real quick because we just had. Let me actually real quick narrow this down a little bit so it's easier to see. Share my screen here. So we have two tornado warnings now south of Bloomington, Illinois, which is kind of to the north, closer to the warm front. What I'm concerned about is that there's really nothing out ahead of these, is that this area could kind of continue to track to the north, which is what that Warn On forecast model actually is
Mhm.
indicating with some of those tracks north of I-70 out through 6:30, 7 o'clock.
Mhm.
So we need to watch this area very carefully as it moves to the north, between Kokomo and the north side of Indy here in this region. Maybe not that far south. I may have drawn that line a little bit too far south, but you get the picture here. Lafayette, Logansport, Kokomo, Marion in here. We need to be watching this very, very carefully because there's a lot of rotation on these storms already.
Yeah, a lot of, and just so you guys are aware, we've sent out a lot of information to the customers' devices today about clarity and or the storms coming through clarity. We appreciate the nice comment there, Ashley. It's very nice of you. Um, what we need to keep an eye on um, after the main wave is again is the this line that's going to form here. And I saw some pretty aggressive signals from the Warn On in Southwest Indiana at the end of the run for some really really nasty thunderstorms. It may have been the run prior, Brett, that goes out a little further.
Yeah, I'm gonna refresh. See, this one still only goes out to.
Check that 19Z one,
Yeah, here we go.
and you can see it
Woo!
at the very end here. There's the ones you're talking about up north.
Up north for
Um,
sure.
those
Yeah.
top thunderstorms, we would certainly want to watch that. Um,
Let me go to the mid level. Maybe it was the mid level. Jeez. Yeah, look at that.
mhm,
So this
mhm.
was the 19 run out through 9 p.m. Indicating again the potential for some longer tracked supercells right through central Indiana.
Yep.
We cannot let our guard down here. The 20Z run's coming in right now. Let's see how it's so 20Z run. Wow, Michael.
Hmm. Hmm. That one.
So that's
And
an
they've been. I tell you that the high res models have been putting something like this through Johnson County all day long. I mean, I've seen 80% of the high res model runs putting in a nasty storm through Johnson County. I mean, I would not sleep on that. That certainly seems to be something these models keep honing in on. Johnson County area, man, it's that's a gnarly signal there. Um, so what what we need to do is, we're going to continue to watch this evolve. And our plan is to come back live once these storms start firing up and going tornado warned a little bit further east. And once that happens, we'll come back. I would imagine that's probably another hour or two
Mhm.
before that happens, and then we'll kind of keep with you here throughout the evening. Make sure you're subscribed, you're liking the pages, and checking everything out. Um, and I see people asking, "Are we looking in the chat?" Yep, we're looking there. Mom's account, whoever you are, I can see you and all your 55 comments that you have. I can't answer all the comments and the chats that are coming in, but I can tell you that again, uh, we've laid out the timing for you, and we're concerned that it's going to be a busy night. So um, we will come back once the weather starts to really fire up. As Brett's pulling up here our website, you can go and get access right now for free. Clarity's free. If you hit start free trial, you can test it out, and it doesn't cost anything. So we want to keep you all updated and uh, in tune with the latest. Brett, show everybody real quick the nowcast that we sent out to everybody's personal devices. This is what we sent out a while ago, but we laid out the timing and we sent it to your device. There's the graphic right there. 7 to 9 o'clock from Fort Wayne to Indy, Bloomington, down through Evansville. Perfect look at the type of information we send to your device to help you all out. So scan
Yeah.
the QR there or go to BAM. And there, that's what we were looking at storm development there. I'll be curious to see how that one pans out, Brett.
Yeah, I know John had sent, so this was an hour ago, kind of talking about the earliest we would see a storm pop out ahead of the main line would be around or after 5:30.
Yep.
So this area, after 5:30, that's where we need to watch for the potential for development. There's still some uncertainty with that. Certainly very confident with the main line. The biggest question just remains, can these storms really get going out ahead of that main line? That warn on system would suggest that it's possible the HRRR, the future radar we showed, was maybe a little bit closer to the main line, but still had some. It still had some.
Hmm. I'm just curious, Brett. So a particular thing I found on the Warn On, and this is I'm going to go to the 20Z run real quick because, okay, I'm going to share my screen real quick.
Okay.
So the Warn On has multiple ensemble members within its run. Okay, if I go here, you should be able to see it now.
Hmm.
Um, there's a couple of ensemble. There's 18 ensembles, but watch this particular set here, right around 5. See those cells fire up around 5 to 7 p.m. All right, there's a particular set there that it puts on the updraft helicity swaths. Here's ensemble member 2. Okay, you can see him a little out ahead there, but then there's the main line. You can see that coming through. That's got the main line coming through right there. That's 9 to 10 p.m. on that
Hmm.
particular run.
Yeah.
But different variations of this high res WRF model, trying to put cells out ahead. There's just a lot of outcomes here that what we really need to just kind of do is wait and see what the 5 to 7 p.m. hour brings.
Hmm.
Again, here's another look. A lot of these members all look the same with that wall of wind and QLCS coming through. But you can get various different looks here by looking at various different members. And that's what I'm really trying to point your attention to is let's see what those do. Because that 5 to 6 p.m. time frame that's gonna tell us, are we gonna get any prefrontal development? And if those pop, those will be the ones to watch for tornadoes. The line will be the one to watch for the wind and the potential rotation in the embedded in the line for rain wrap
Hmm.
tornadoes.
Yeah.
So several listen that as meteorologists we have several different outcomes and things to look at and try to figure out. Right now our biggest uncertainty is anything going to fire ahead of the line? That's our biggest thing. And what we have to do is just continue to really monitor radar, with seeing if anything can develop out ahead, any blips in the radar or little pops here of thunderstorms that try to suggest maybe something can develop. So that's what we're
Michael,
going to watch.
real quick, will you scroll down to Jackson, Tennessee? There was just a tornado warning issued down there. That's a pretty populated area.
Yep. We'll head on in here to Jackson. There it is. Yep. Radar indicated. Heading in the southwest side there, that's going to expire in an hour. In the Jackson area, let's see. That's going to go until 5 p.m. Central. Tornado quarter-size hail. It's moving northeast at 50 miles an hour. And we'll turn on the rotation here real quick through clarity. You don't want to see everyone asking questions. There's probably a lot of that. Some indications of rotation starting to build here.
Yeah,
Nothing
let's see.
too crazy. Um, gosh, Radar
There's,
Omega is firing up now, isn't it?
yeah, so again, there's a now tornado warning on just south of St. Louis, just
Yep.
south of downtown St. Louis. So if we want to just real quickly scroll up there to
See if that
highlight
comes
that for
through.
folks.
Yep. And you can see the obvious rotation track there. Has kind of had a long history of the brighter colors there. That new warning came in. It should be. I'm surprised. There it is, right there, uh, populated right there. And what you can see is it's a radar indicated tornado warning. This one here I thought it was observed for a time, Brett. Um,
It was, yeah,
okay,
it
so this
was.
one's
So it
going to
must have
go
lifted.
until 4:45 Central. They're just getting in on the southern side of the St. Louis metro area. So that's going to be a nasty storm. Gosh, I keep clicking on the wrong one. That drives me crazy. Heading into the southern side there of St. Louis, wind, hail, and particularly the storm that's had a history of producing a tornado. So it's getting going out west and south. That's for sure.
For sure. And the one note that I'll make with that storm near St. Louis is that's not necessarily a discrete supercell. It's an embedded supercell within
Mm.
kind of that messy line. And just goes to show that it doesn't have to be a single cell all by itself to produce a tornado on the ground, because that one already has. And
Yep.
that's a little bit more like what we could be seeing in our area here in a couple of hours.
Yep. Awesome. Awesome. Perfect. Well, Brett, let's kind of wait and see what this decides to do over the next 90 minutes or so, and it's certainly going to be another warning coming in. Where's that one at?
It is north of Bloomington, Illinois.
Yeah, so multiple tornado warnings in north central Illinois right now. It's certainly going to be a very busy evening. We are going to continue to monitor this, and as soon as things get closer and start firing up, we will be back on here live to help you monitor. It'll be myself or John Kemper or Brett, all of us, two of us, one of us, you never know, but we will be here helping you all tonight, keeping you all posted. Make sure you follow, like, and subscribe to the pages. And we'll be back when it's time to the stuff getting a little bit closer.
Yep. Thanks, guys. Stay safe, and we'll see you soon.